Hi there VC, Steve Whitty here. It's time for another video. Been a couple of weeks since the last one. I'm going to show you really best of February's finds. You may notice my last video I struck lucky with on £2 finds, but obviously there were a few more records and it was quite a fruitful month, February. But rather than doing a whole load of videos showing off everything I got in February, I thought I'd just condense it into sort of like a best of what I found. So first up, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Let Me Know Up, I've Had Enough. Came out in 1987. It's an album that I've never seen in the wild. It's one of my favourite Tom Petty albums. Jammy Me, good song on here. Also, Thinking About Me, Self-Made Man. Just a great album. I love the cover. Just made up, and apologise for the glare there. There we go, that might be better. Where it's made up sort of like from the photos. You can see out the back there. The actual the photos with the bits missing from it, and you can see there I've got a little sort of like guest pass. I don't know whether that came with the original album. The Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers Rock and Roll Caravan guest show with Georgia Satellites and the Doyle Fagos. So yeah, very happy to find that. Next up is Traffic, and this is Heaven Is In Your Mind. This is a reissue of the US version of their debut album, which was simply known as Traffic in the UK. At this point, it just features the three members. Dave Mason would have left the band at this point, but it does. It's come out originally on the Sundays label. It's the reissues on the Sundays label. Traffic, great band that came out of Birmingham. It's a mono reissue as well, which is even better. I saw this. I just had to pick this up, even though I've got the UK version. Yeah, great band, Traffic. Obviously, Steve Winwood would leave to go to Blind Fate, but he would come back in the end with the two core members of Chris Wood and Jim Capaldi as well. So yeah, pleased to find that. Paper Sun, Hold My Shoe are on there as well. Curtis Mayfield. Now this is Back to the World. Cover's not in great state, but the record plays well. This is a reissue on the Curtain label. This reissue came out in 1976. I think the original came out in 1972. Struck by how colourful the album art is. That's maybe something that's missed. Written and produced by Curtis Mayfield. In a way, it sort of carries on the sort of, I think he was more socially aware of the songwriters at that point, and it sort of follows that on. You see the back cover there, sort of images on the front cover. You got the Capitol building, and the flag weapons on there. Yeah, just a really good album. If I see any Curtis Mayfield, I always pick it up. I've got a few of his albums now, which is pleasing to have. Band that I sort of completed the early section for is Steve Miller Band. Now, this is Children of the Future. I think this might have been their debut album. This is in the American reissue, 70s reissue. I think the original album came out in 68. This is very much of its time, of the sound, sort of like psych pop, bit of blues in there as well, and it sounds really good. I've not had this album before, so I was pleased that I saw it in the shop, picked it up, and as it's reissued, the cover's different. It's got the picture of the band on at that time, whereas the original came out sort of like didn't have any sort of white, red and blue cover with Steve Miller Band Children of the Future on it. And likewise, I picked up Living in the USA. Now this is, again, it's a 70s US reissue. It's actually it's the album Sailor under a different guise, and it got reissued as Living in the USA. I've got Sailor, but it's not in great nick, so I better pick this up just as a better option there. Yeah, it follows on. It's a really good album if you're into that sort of like late 60s vibe. It was also the last album that featured Boz Gags. He would leave afterwards to go on his own merry way. I do like the Steve Miller Band. I do think he's got a lot going for him. I think he gets underrated. He's underrated. He's one of those. But yeah, you listen to his stuff. Recently listened to his greatest hits, 74, 78, and the amount of songs that you know because you heard them on the radio at that time. It's just absolutely outstanding. Really, really good. I really do enjoy listening to Steve Miller Band. Another guy I enjoy listening to is Bill Nelson, and this is The Love That Whirls, in brackets, Diary of the Thinking Heart. Came out in 82 on Mercury. This is very much an 80s. This is very much an album of its time. There's very little guitar on it, as he's known as a guitarist, but he was trying to be one step ahead, even when he was in Bebop Deluxe. And it's got a lot of very synth pop, almost touching on the prog of that at that time. It didn't do anything for him, and maybe it. Pretty soon he would be dropped by Mercury, but yeah, plays all the instruments on this. It's very much a one-man band, sort of like picking up from the ashes of Red Noise when that project failed. Yeah, really good album. Never heard it before. And yeah, but it is very much, if you're expecting Bill Nelson guitarist, you might be a bit disappointed. It's very much a synth heavy, which was all the rage at that time. Album I've picked up but yet to play is the debut Psychedelic Furs album. I know the track Sister Europe off here, and I quite like the early Psychedelic Furs, and when they did the reissue of Purity in Pink, I sort of lost me a little bit. But yeah, I'd say it's an album I need to reconnect to. I've got to have to say I haven't listened to this in about 40 years. I much prefer Talk, the second album, because it's got the original Pretty in Pink in, and I feel it's their superior album. But that might change when I get round to listening to this. Very much produced by Steve Lillywhite, one of his early productions. It's very much again, post-punk, new wave, which they were tagged into at that time. So yeah, I'll look forward to listening to that. Album I had on CD, but I'm pleased to say I found a vinyl copy, is the Waterboys Fisherman's Blues. Came out 88. It's the first post Carl Wallinger album. This is where Mike Scott went more traditional sound. It is fair to say there is a track called World Party on here, fourth track on side one, and it's a very good album. Again, I think the Waterboys sort of get lost a little bit in the pantheon of bands that's a little bit underrated. But yeah, they are a good band at that time, and Mike Scott's still working. And he's always worth a listen. And I did stream the 1985 box set. I think that's well worth listening to. You might not want to buy it because it's quite a lot of music there, and it's a bit expensive. But it's certainly, I'd recommend giving the 1985 box a listen, because you get the embryonic tunes around that time, and so it's good. Now, a band that I'm completing a discography for, Audience. last couple of years, I picked up their other albums. This is their final album they released during the main period of operation. This is Lunch, came out in 1972. This is an American pressing on Elektra, produced by Gus Dudgeon. This, I think, was more of an attempt to have more commercial songs. The album art is a bit weird. You know, I didn't make it out. It's called Lunch, but it's just two ladies sitting on a couch. It's very, yeah. They tried to make, I think, more popular tunes than previously, the previous albums. I think it may be sort of pressure to become commercially successful, and that may be from America rather than UK, where they were on Charisma, and I think Charisma weren't too bothered as long as the records were good and that the albums were selling. They would split up pretty much soon after this album was released, but it's not a bad album. Well, glad I finally got it. Next, King Crimson Beat. Now, when King Crimson came back together around 1980, 81 with Discipline, Beat, and I've forgotten the Yellow album, title of the Yellow album. Well, it basically, when Robert Fripp got back together, got in a room with Adrian Belew, Tony Levin, and Bill Bruford, he was going to call this the band Discipline, but he was so pleased with the results that he decided to resurrect King Crimson. So the first album was called Discipline. This is the second one. This is Beat. Came out in 82. Sort of follows that line a little bit. It's very sort of jazz fusiony, a lot of electronics on there, very experimental. It's a good album. You know, in a way, it's sort of, I could see why Fripp wanted to originally call the band a different name rather than use the King Crimson moniker, because it is totally different to what that King Crimson. Yet, excuse me, saying that, it is still pretty much, it's very much that experimental side of King Crimson, which I find fascinating. So very pleased to pick that up. I want to get the other two, just to sort of complete that collection. Now, when I showed you my £2 bins come up trumps video, there was a lot of this band. I picked up 3 albums by this band, and also there were 2 other albums by the band that were in better nick, so I had to pay a bit more for them. First one, it's R.E.M, and this is their 4th album, Life's Rich Pageant. This is where they shifted more towards a more commercial sound, where Fables was more of a sort of dark record, which sort of summed up the time when they were in London recording that album, where it was all wet and rainy and it was horrible, and then London didn't have the sort of creature comforts at that time as, say, America. It resurrected, it showed up in the sound of the album. This is a much lighter affair, and it shifted the direction, which would then move into Document, then into Green. So yeah, this is a good album. I do like this album on listening to it. And then I finally got myself a hold of a copy of this, the debut album, Mama, 83. This is not an original pressing. This is a reissue. Radio Free Europe on it. It's a great track. It's just a great album. I can see why Rolling Stone it gets rated so highly. It's very different to what was around at that time, and I've just recently I've listened to Murmur recently. I streamed it, but also I watched on YouTube. It came up in my feed, the appearance they did on the Letterman Late Show, which is quite an iconic appearance. And I was so pleased to see them. They'd performed on stage recently. They got all 4 were on stage performing Don't Go to Rockville, I think it was the song they'd done. And so, you never know, they may get back together again. I don't know. It depends. I mean, in a way, I think what I mind about R.E.M is they left on their own terms, and that said, that's it. They could have eaten it out and just done tours for the money, but it was never about that for them, in my view. They might prove me wrong and come out on a tour, go out on a tour. The ticket prices are about £100 each. Or those. I don't know. Last album, this did come out of £2 bins. This is Pillows and Prayers. It's a compilation album that was put out by Cherry Red. It's Cherry Red, 1982 to 83. At the time, you paid no more than 99 pence. It's got a slew of artists on here which were through Cherry Red at the time. So you got Attila the Stockbroker, Kevin Coyne, Quentin Crisp, Joe Crow, Everything But the Girl, Idas in Gaza, 5 or 6, Thomas Lear, Marine Girls, Piero Malsi, The Misunderstood, The Monochrome Set, The Nightingales, Birmingham Band, The Passage, Tracy Ford, Ben Watt, obviously Everything But the Girls in solo guises. I think the Marine Girls were also Tracy Ford. But one of the acts I picked up is Felt. And I wasn't going to show this record, but I might as well show you the book I've just been reading. This is a street level superstar, and it's a year with Lawrence, who was the leader of Felt. Now, fascinating character. Lawrence was born I think initially grew up in Edgbaston, but due to like things that are happening on the estate he was living in, his family moved to Water Orton. Now, Water Orton is a little village. It's about 10-15 miles away from where I live. But you know, the story. It's the book basically follows Lawrence. Will Hodgkinson, who wrote the book, follows Lawrence for a year. It's not your typical, you know, autobiography where he was born this day, did this, did that. And it's a fascinating read. She's a fascinating character. Probably not an easy character to get on with, but if you got on with him, I think you'd sort of have a friend for life. But he has the ability to push people away after a while. Finds it very difficult to form relationships. Felt sort of when disintegrating from to Denim. He was unlucky. There was a single that was going to come out, which was, everyone said it was going to be a surefire hit, and then it was due to come out the week that Princess Diana had her car crash and they got scrapped. He slid into a heroin dependency. He's back with he did Go-Kart Mozart, and then became Mozart Estate, which had an album out a couple of years ago, which is marvellous record. And he's back at Go-Kart Mozart now. It's worth seeking out if you haven't read it. It was worth seeking out some new music. It makes me want to find a bit more about Felt, actually. Sort of under my radar. They were on Creation Records at the start. So yeah, excellent book. And those are my finds. So I hope that you enjoyed what I showed. Again, apologies for the glare. So I forgotten what I was going to say. I'm trying to slip there, but here we go. If you like what you see, thumbs up, thumbs down. Love the interaction. Feel free to leave a comment. I'll get back to you. If you feel that way inclined, you can also subscribe. But it's Friday, so whatever you get up to this weekend, make sure it's a good one. I think the weather might be half decent in the UK this weekend. So whatever you do, VC, take care of each other. Keep spinning, but more importantly, keep on smiling.